There we go. Hi, everybody. Let me just turn on comments so I could see if anybody has anything they'd like to chat about. Hey, everyone. I hope that everyone is doing as well as can be expected. And I'd like to introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. My name is Kim Hinchy, and I am the owner of Adrian Grief Support. More importantly, I am the mother of Adrian Hinchy, and he is the reason for everything that I do. My son Adrian died during the pandemic of an accidental overdose, and my husband John died 3 months later. So, needless to say, my world was devastated. I lost half of my family in one moment, and I didn't know how I was going to continue. I didn't know if I wanted to continue, and I didn't know what I was in for. I don't think any of us do when we first experience grief, because we're told there's these 5 stages and you can check your way through them. And then once you're done with that, you have something called closure. And once you have closure, you're supposed to go back to normal or move on with your life, or maybe become a stronger, better version of yourself. And then grief happens, and it is nothing like what we are told to expect it to be. So I wanted to start doing these little chats and talk about how grief really is. I call it actual factual grief, but we could also call it grief reality bites, or we could just call it normalizing grief, which is what I called this today, because we do need to normalize grief. We live in a grief illiterate society where nobody talks about what it's really like. And the fact is, it's because nobody knows what it's really like until they experience it. I didn't know what it was like. I was talking to someone earlier today, and she was saying, I'm guilty of that too, because you don't know until you're in it. And then when you are in it, there's no way to get out of it. So you flail around. It's like drowning in an ocean. You're trying to paddle, you're trying to keep your chin up, you're wondering what is going to happen next, because this is so much worse than I expected it to be. So, some of the things that I wish someone would talk about more. I'm going to pull up my little list here because I wrote them down. The first thing is that grief is incredibly isolating. We know that it's lonely to lose someone that we love, but until you're actually experiencing grief, you don't know how isolating it is. You can be in a room full of people and be absolutely alone. You can have people wishing you well all day long and telling you to stay strong and that they're sending their love or they're praying for you, and you feel absolutely alone. There is nothing as isolating as grief. Nothing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that grief lasts much, much longer than we think it will. Recently, I think it was decided that complicated grief is after a year. And to me, that is absolutely ridiculous. Because a year, honestly, is when you're just getting started. The first year is a blur, it's a fog, it's disbelief with hopelessness, with trying to reconcile yourself to the fact that this is my life now. And then the second year is when the hard work begins, because that's when we realize this isn't going to end. This isn't anything that we just push through. Grief lasts much, much longer than we think. You're not going to be better after a month, 3 days of bereavement, time off from work. You're not going to be better after a year. And that's just the truth. The third thing is there's no going back to the old you. The person that you were before you experienced deep grief is not who you are now. If you're listening to this and you are experiencing grief, you know exactly what I mean. You are not the person that you were before your person died. And I'm going to tell you the truth because I don't believe in sugarcoating. You're not going back to that person. The old you is gone forever. I wish somebody had told me that. And then I wouldn't have spent so much time waiting for her to come back. There's no going back to the old you. There's only trying to figure out who you are going forward. The fourth thing that I wanted to mention today is that people stop talking about your loved one long before you're ready to. And years out, myself, I'm not ready to. I still think about them every day, every hour, every minute. They're always on my mind, the same way that my living loved ones are. They are as real to me, and my relationship with them is as valid and real now today as it was when they were here physically. But people stop talking about them. They become invisible and then they become forgotten. Or that's what it feels like. And that's really hard. When the rest of the world moves on and you're like, wait, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to move on. Nobody said anything about moving on. Yeah, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And when they stop talking about your loved one and your loved one is the only thing that you want to talk about, it's one of the hardest parts of grief. And another thing about grief that I wish somebody had mentioned to me is about the stages, those stages of grief that aren't accurate. Grief comes in waves, not stages. It's not orderly. It's not methodical. It's not a checklist. You might feel fine one day and even start to feel guilty because you're thinking, have I forgotten them already? And then the next day, you feel like you're crushed under the weight of the pain. Some days you're angry. Some days you're numb. It's something that you never know. And so it's unpredictable. It's crazy. It comes in waves. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. No stages. So if you felt some of these things, or maybe just now you're realizing that what you've been feeling is more common than you thought, I just want you to know you're not alone. Grief is extremely isolating, like we just talked about, but you don't have to go through it alone. I'm a certified grief educator and coach, and I invite you to reach out to me. Or you can join one of my groups. I have groups that are starting at the end of the month for parents who have lost a child, and the first week of February for women who have lost a partner. You can go to my website. It's agriefsupport.com. Go up to online groups and click on that. And I do want to let you know that I have scholarships available for those of you that can't afford to pay for a group. I have scholarships available and they're going to go to someone. So why not you? I encourage you to apply. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. There are no bad questions. There are no dumb questions. And I'm here to be your advocate. I am here to tell you that what you're feeling is normal. It's normal. You're normal. grief really is this awful. You're not stuck. You're not crazy. You're normal. This is what grief looks like. I'm going to start doing these little Facebook lives every chance that I get, every time I have, a spare 15, 20 minutes, because I do want to connect with you, my audience. I do want to hear what you guys have to say, what you're experiencing. I try to read the comments on the posts, but sometimes I don't have time. And so this is my kind of happy medium where maybe we can meet and we can not be alone, even if it's virtually. I feel connected to every single person out there who's experiencing grief. So that's what I had to say today. Next time I might have something different to say. But I'm very glad that you're here. Even if you're watching the replay, I'm very glad that you're watching the replay. And I want to remind you, you're not alone. Yes, what you feel is normal. And yeah, grief sucks. Worse than anything. I'm sending you so much love. So much love.